So I guess I'd like to start things off by saying Happy Valentine's Day. I hope that if you have a Valentine, you make time for them. So is anyone here new? I think there's somebody talking on the Slack about wanting to come here today, but I guess I don't see any new faces. So we're going to be running that CTF at the Revolution UC Hackathon. I know I mentioned this last week, but I've been working on it a little bit more. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know. I know Chris, it has some files from another hackathon that we can look into possibly using. So yeah, if you have any good ideas, or if you've ever messed around on vulnhub.com, it's got some really cool little CTF VMs that you can spin up and hack away at. Sport team updates. Jai, give the rundown of the sport team updates.
So we have till the 22nd of February to sign up with 10 people at least for dodgeball. So if you're interested, we're going to be doing it on Thursdays from it's like anywhere from 5 to 11 p.m. But if you're interested, I posted a link in the general chat for signups for IM League. Make an account there and then fill out the Google form. So I know if you're interested.
Yeah, please, if you're interested at all. I mean, I think it'd be awesome if we could just get a team together. I mean, we only need like 10 people. I think it'd be some fun. Go and play some dodgeball. Plus, it'd just be like a, kind of like a teamwork kind of bonding thing. Be cool. So yeah, definitely fill those out. It's in the general. I think I filled them out. So, and how many people do we have right now, Jai?
5.
5? All right, 5 more people. If we get 5 more people, that'd be awesome. So anyway, we'll move on. To keep these short, I'm going to be presenting to the Student Activities Board tomorrow at 6. We're going to be an official chapter finally, so we're going to be able to get funding and have food at meetings and be able to have awesome stuff paid for, like a visit to DEF CON. That's kind of what I'm trying to put together for 2018. I don't know how many people that we're going to be able to bring, but you see, as an AIC, if we register as an academic intercollegiate competition team chapter, we can get like up to $15,000 in funding just to go, like, have our flights paid for, have our tickets paid for, have everything paid for to go to some of these conferences. So if DEF CON is out of the ballpark, we can always make time and try to go to like DerbyCon or another like conference. But I know B-Sides will probably have no trouble getting some discounted tickets for all of us who want to go. So that's on the board. And then, once again, Happy Valentine's Day. Jai, is there anything you want to say about public affairs? Any other updates?
We'll be making tutorials soon for the website. So if you're new and you're not caught up on all the stuff we've done previously, we're going to be having like little short tutorials to get you caught up if you're interested.
Cool, yeah. And if anyone wants to help out with this tutorial videos or has cool topics that they'd like to see made into like a little tutorial video, please let Jai know, and we can figure this out. So now we'll hand it over to Corey for the weekly content and info section. Corey and Brandon, I should say.
Standard error keys. Error keys up and down.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first article that I looked into, the Nintendo Switch was actually recently hacked as far as the boot ROM bug that was exploited. Currently, it's under close supervision of the actual founder and the finder of the bug. It's not been publicly released yet. They did claim on their Twitter that it's unable to be patched on any current Switch. So there is that. So whenever it does become public, you can get it on a Switch if you have it now, and probably in the foreseeable future as well. It doesn't need a mod chip, which is similar to like a JTAG hack for like an Xbox, where you can modify the system OS and play other unlicensed games and such on an Xbox. They've put Linux on it. I think they put just a base Ubuntu on it, just to like test it out and everything, but it could definitely go potentially onto an Android OS version. I think they used the Tegra chip, so it's already been used in like the NVIDIA Shield and stuff like that, so it shouldn't be too hard to port over. One of the main pluses to this hack is that it leads the way to homebrew games and other versions of Linux, such as Kali, which would be fairly nice to have a concealed device like that and just bring it somewhere and it won't look as suspicious as someone on a laptop. So that'd be kind of interesting. The second article I did was the leak of iBoot. Now, iBoot is the boot ROM for Apple devices. And this is actually shown to me by a good friend of mine. And it was leaked by one of the interns for Apple. And it was originally leaked to just 5 people. However, after a couple months, it was put on a GitHub page and was then later found out about recently. I actually looked at the GitHub page and it has a DMCA takedown notice on it, so you can't actually look at it now. But I'm sure somebody somewhere made copies of it and you can find it elsewhere.
A Wayback Machine?
Probably, yeah, that too. It is not for the current version of iOS, which I believe is iOS 11. However, it's only so much you can change for a boot ROM, so I'm sure there's some kind of exploit there and useful information that could be found from it.
So as I'm sure most of you have heard by now, the Winter Olympics have started. Go Shaun White.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So when the Olympics were just starting up, during their opening ceremony, they were actually attacked, and it brought down like all their network connections. No one around there was able to like get on and access their ticket through their phone or whatever, so they could get into the event. It was a terrible time. It was down for like 12 hours. Turns out the cause for this disruption was a wiper malware that they're calling Olympic Destroyer, which just sounds badass.
Yeah,
if we're being honest here. It was named that by Cisco Talos. I know AJ's mentioned them several times. They get a lot of power when they're naming the bad guys. We do know that 2 of the tools that they use built into the malware we've actually seen before. We saw them in the Bad Rabbit ransomware, and we saw them in NotPetya. But at this time, we can't actually attribute this attack to any one nation state or group, just because there's so little information in this, and the malware is apparently very simple outside of these built-in tools, which have already been seen in the past. Their code's already out there. Is anyone here not really sure what a wiper malware is? Okay. So the goal of the wiper malware is, so normally when you get into a system, you're there to either like steal information, monitor what's going on, that sort of thing. The goal when someone's using a wiper malware is get in and just destroy everything, just delete it all, just make it gone. So that's kind of the goal of that sort of malware, and that's what they had to deal with. So I can't imagine it was fun being the guy who had to restart them from their backups or whatever it was they did to recover. The other thing I wanted to talk about for you guys was government sites. You know, those sites that you're supposed to be able to trust more than like the normal website. Over 4,000 of them are actually currently infected with cryptocurrency mining scripts. These scripts are currently going to CoinHive. I understand that's just one of the more popular scripts that's used. It's a JavaScript that connects to the CoinHive API, and what it does is it hijacks your computer's CPU to make it start mining for cryptocurrency. I've covered this a couple of different times, both this semester and last. They've actually got a term for that now. They're calling it cryptojacking. And how this infection is getting in is through a third-party plugin that's really popular called Browse Aloud. It was made initially to assist the visually impaired or blind users so that it would read text out loud to them. And all of these government websites in the US, the UK, a bunch of different European governments, but mostly the UK and the US, all use this third-party plugin. And that's what allowed these scripts to be put onto their websites. So there isn't actually an exact list. If you follow this link near the bottom, they hyperlink out to a full list of all over 4,200 websites that are infected.
All right, now we're going to continue our CEH learning. Tonight we're going to do some cryptography. We don't have a whole lot to go over tonight, but we do have to start with a little bit of topics learning. So if you haven't already gotten your Ubuntu, or not Ubuntu, Linux distros open now, just go ahead and do that. Preferably Kali tonight, because we're going to be using John the Ripper, which is already installed in Kali and kind of hard to set up. Alright. So there's three main cryptographic methods we're going to go over. First is your rotation cipher. You probably did this when you were in, I don't know, 3rd grade. Basically, you take a letter and you change it with another letter in the
Sorry, I
alphabet.
didn't mean to interrupt you. I was
Okay.
laughing at your slide.
This was also known as the Caesar cipher because it was used in ancient Greece. It was really good when people can't read, but now people can read, so it's not so good anymore. Yeah. Then we have the Polyalphabetic Cipher, which is just the Caesar cipher, but you have longer keys than one letter, which means that if you have a 3-character key, every 3rd letter in the cipher will match to that key letter. That's a weird explanation. Shorter keys are weaker, obviously, but longer keys can be stronger. If you have a key that is the size of your message, it will be very secure. Alright. It's still pretty weak, though.
So, what's the exact method of cipher?
This one? I
So,
think...
like, so how does ABC with key 555, or how does DEF become ABC?
So if
Is
you
it
look
the
back
same
here,
throughout?
this is a rotation 3.
Yep.
So I guess I should have used numbers instead of letters, but let's do it for that. So where it would become...
So it rotates by...
Instead of using the same number key for every letter, you use a different number
Yep.
for every letter sequentially.
Ah.
So the first letter you rotate 5 times, the second letter you rotate 6 times, third letter you rotate 7 times, then you repeat that through all the letters.
Took me a second.
This kind of cipher also gets weaker the longer your message is if your key stays the same size. Third method is hashing. Basically, a hash is a one-way cryptographic function. You put something into it and you get something out of it. Typically, your out will always be a set length, so no matter what you put in, you will always get the same amount of output. Ideally, you would have only one input and then only one output, but mathematically that's not possible. So you just try to make your outputs as long as you can in a mathematical way. Alright, so their weakness is that the shorter your output is, the higher chance you have to put some random input in and get the same as if you put in your password. And this is also how passwords are stored on the servers, because you can use a hash to verify the integrity of data without knowing the data itself. And then we have key pairs. So I didn't have an example for this one. Has anyone ever used SSL on a website? You should probably all raise your hands.
You haven't, I have your credit card number now.
Yeah. So basically you have 2 sets of keys. You have a private key which is never shared with anyone, and you have a public key which is shared with everyone. And your public key you can use to encrypt a message, and then it can only be decrypted using the private key. That way you can ensure that only the remote server on some website is getting your credit card numbers. Although you usually use this in conjunction with very long symmetric keys, so it's not quite the right example.
So if you had him want to talk to somebody completely private, just you and him, you just give them your public key, then they're going to use that public key to encrypt everything, and you have to keep your private key extremely safe. Don't want anyone to see your private key. Because if they see your private key, they can break the whole encryption.
You guys remember back to last week the .ovpn files I distributed for everyone to connect to the network? Those are actually all private public key pairs, but it's like truncated to one file.
So is that similar to PGP then?
Yeah, PGP is actually a version of public
PGP uses that.
private. Yeah. Does anyone know what the acronym PGP stands for?
Pretty good privacy.
Pretty good privacy, yeah. All right. So, get moving into tools now. Typically, for finding a hash on a Linux machine, you'll type the name of the hash and then sum is your command. So it's the hash name sum. So MD5 would become MD5 sum. SHA-1 would be SHA-1 sum, and so on. Now you can see your weaker hashes have the shorter output lengths, and your stronger hashes will have the longer output lengths. All right. Our next tool is John the Ripper. John the Ripper is a hash cracking tool. Basically, you put hashes in, you get passwords out. It uses dictionary text to basically, you can give it a bunch of words. It'll hash every one of those words and compare it to the hash you're looking at. Say, is this my password maybe? Or can this be used as my password? I don't think it can extract password hashes. I think I put that on there, but it was wrong. But it can definitely, you can actually point these at database, this program at a database to make it really, really fast.
So I guess I'll continue on this part. Something I want to add about hashing is kind of cool about hashing is that you remember how I talked about IOCs, indicators of compromise, and how I've mentioned hashes in the past as high fidelity IOCs, indicators of compromise. If you have a whole bunch of files going over the wire or files on a machine that you've seen, it's a lot easier just to hash that file and shoot that hash over to a person that wants to take a look at what's on that machine. And if that hash matches something that's known to be malicious, like another known malicious file, you can be pretty damn certain that the file that's on that computer remotely that you get the hash of is a bad file. So if we can all get on our Linux distros and Kali distros, we're going to start doing some command lines here. What's the protocol for this again, man?
Oh, you're doing the HDMI. Should I get an HDMI and a VGA adapter for you for next week?
Oh, can we figure that out?
Huh?
We can figure that out, yeah.
Yeah, I looked online. I found one for like $20 or something, so we can do it.
So we're gonna do VGA. All right, we will zoom in. Control plus. Clear, yeah. All right, it's not terrible. You can kind of see what I'm doing up here. All right, so what we're gonna do now is let's just proof of concept. Let's show how hashing works. So let's go ahead and open up a file or make a text document. So I'm in my home directory, and I'll just make a text document called, I'll call it chapter test. Whatever, txt. And inside it, I'll say cats. Oh, insert cats. All right. So I'll go ahead and I will get out of insert mode, and I will can't see my command line down there. Written Q. Okay. We should see the chapter test.txt. So you guys can take any file you want. I'm just showing you that, hey, I made a file with something in it. And now I want to MD5 sum, and I'll go ahead and I'll put in that chapter test.txt. All right. And when you hit enter, what you're going to see is, look, that's the MD5 of that file. Right? So a lot of times, when you get download an operating system, say you download Kali, you torrent it, and they say, oh, this is the hash of the downloaded file. Well, you could be fairly certain that the file you're getting is the correct file if the hashes match. So I could go back into that, and I'll use Nano this time, sure. I can go back into that, and I'll name it cats with more S's, and then we'll save it. And let's see here. Gosh, this is okay. You guys can see it there. I can't see it there. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the MD5 some of that again, and it should be different. See how they're both different? So a little change can make a big difference in the hash of a file. So we'll clear this out. And let me see if I can adjust this damn thing so I can actually see it on my computer. All right, so now what we're going to want to do here is just make some passwords. So I have this command here. Echo, you see I was making the password poo-poo. But this right here will, whatever you type in, it's going to echo on the command prompt. It's going to pipe that. That's the pipe command. This is the pipe command. We can spend, where's my mouse? There it is. We can spend a lot of extra time on other workshops on just the little awesome things that you can do on the command line of Linux. But you're going to want to pipe it to the MD5 sum. So what I enter here, which, let's say dog, is going to be hashed as an MD5, and then we're going to truncate it. And what this is going to do is going to remove any other characters that are put in after the hash. So it's just the hash. Sometimes when you'll hash something, you'll have like a space and then like a dash after it. And if you are wanting to feed that in to something to crack that hash, it's going to get all confused because it's not in the perfect format. So I'm just removing this extra noise on the hash, and then I'm sending it to the file hashes. And then what we're going to have is we're going to have another hash in that file. For me, I'll go ahead and I'll just say hash test. I'll have it make a whole new file. So at this point, we should all put in some little words that we can remember and just run this command line a couple times with a couple different passwords. I'll put like 3 or 4 in here. Cool. All right, so we have some passwords that are hashed. So we can go ahead and we can cat the hash test file. And we can see those are my passwords that are now on hash. So if you're cracking hashes, you don't see this. You just see these are the hashes that you've been given. Now you're going to have to kind of figure out how to break them. So at this point, we'll go ahead and we'll figure out John the Ripper here. So it's pretty simple. I believe this brute forces with John the Ripper without passing a word list. You can also pass a word list with it, and we'll do that here in a second. So I'm passing format equals raw-md5. That's meaning that everything that you're feeding John the Ripper at this time is just a straight MD5 hash. Nothing fancy. It's not SHA-1. It's not SHA-256. Just your MD5. And it's smart. It could auto-detect. But I'm just doing that here to show you guys how you would define your format. And then I'm just going to run it with hash test. And that's the file full of the hashes. So we can see here is that from running it, and I don't believe that this is actually brute force. This is probably just John's built-in word list. Hashcat, we can do a brute force, but I can cover that another time. That's way more in depth. But here we go. We have hashes were cracked, and my password was found. So sometimes you don't want to use John the Ripper's built-in word list. You want to use something better. You want to use a way nicer word list. So did any of you guys get sec lists off of the GitHub? Right? And so what we'll do here is, I can't see anything on my computer. All right. I'm going to cd to my op directory where I have that downloaded. We'll go to sec lists and we'll go to passwords. So as you can see, we have a whole bunch of password lists that sec list gives you. So these can be used to pass to John the Ripper or Hashcat, or you name whatever hash cracking software you want to use. And these words will be hashed, compared with the hash that's currently there, and depending on if it matches or not, you'll get a hit. The really popular one, and it's one that's going to be zipped when you first clone the Git is the rocku.txt.tar.gz. So you can do tar to unzip this -xvzf, and then you can do your rocku.text.tar.gz, and that's going to unzip that, and it's going to put it straight into rocku.txt, which I have right above the zip. Yeah.
Why not just make one text file that just has all of it?
You can. This is just a whole bunch of word lists that come with sec lists.
So are you, with John the Ripper, are you able to just like concatenate all that so it doesn't have to do one file each command? Or?
You could pass it. I think you could pass it more than one list, but I mean, ideally you could just concatenate the list yourself, dedupe them, and then send that. So I mean, there's better lists than this, but Rocku is pretty solid. The top 10 million is pretty solid.
Do you want to say where Rocku, well, that list came from?
Where did it come from?
So there's this company called Rocku that made social games for like they were like integrated into Facebook and MySpace. I think they might still be around, but they had 32 million users in 2009 when their plain text password database got leaked. So Rocku.txt is 32 million actual users' passwords.
So it's a pretty nice password dump to mess around with. Hey, did you have a question?
Yeah, did you already unzip it to the Rocku text above it?
Yeah, I already did that. The Rocku text isn't in sec list when you first get it. You gotta unzip it. So I'm not gonna run that command because I already have it. So I'll get out of that directory. So are we all following along? We all got Rocku unzipped and stuff? Cool. So now we'll do John, or Jahan. And then there is, yeah. So this command, you know, see anything's different? All we did was add the -- word list. I should say argument. And I have it directed to my rocku.txt directory. You guys should do the same. And then you have, I'm pointing it at my hashes file, or for this one, it would probably be hash test. And now I can run John the Ripper. It's going to iterate through all 32 million of these passwords in the blink of an eye and tell us exactly which ones match. So, oh, we should add new ones because I already broke those. So, John the Ripper is smart, and if it's already cracked a password and I already seen that hash before, it's not going to do it again, and it already knows it's there. So we'll add something to hash test. We'll add, I'm sure like admin's probably going to be one, and I'll make a new file too for this one. Hashes 2, sure. So that's admin. Let's add more to the password lists. Sure, admin's probably on there.
I wonder if they are though, because there wouldn't be many admin users on a social game site.
Sheeps. We'll see. Someone else throw out a password. Something that you don't think is going to be popped.
Just put your last name.
Really good password.
A last name?
Your last
Matt?
What my password is.
Yeah. You know, I don't think my last name is going to be popped with this word list, but if it is, I'm going to be surprised. There are name word lists. You can get word lists of first, last names and stuff to iterate through usernames. Yeah?
Can you do numbers as well?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, do Hunter 2.
Hunter 2. I bet you that's it. I bet you it's in there. Let's just do something that's like something.
That'll break instantly.
Probably. I just want to see if I can stump it though. I bet you like that's gonna stump it. All right, cool. So we'll go in here. We'll do John. Oh my gosh, I cannot type. Thank you, autocomplete. Hashes 2, actually. That's the file. Hashes 2. And see what we get. Enter.
Someone actually used Hunter 2. Amazing.
So out of all of those, we found Hunter 2, Sheeps, Admin, and Query 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those, that was a whole 32 million long list iterated through like that, and then boom, we're given these names. So that's pretty much the gist of hashing. We can get more complex with Hashcat. Hashcat's really cool. Hashcat is built to really take advantage of CUDA cores. It can run very efficiently on CPU as well. And it was kind of built to be, I don't want to say like the successor of John the Ripper, but competition with John the Ripper. John the Ripper now has done a lot of really nice work in terms of there's a new version of it on GitHub. I posted that in the Slack, and that is more updated than the original John the Ripper. So John the Ripper doesn't have all the functionality of Hashcat. It's a little bit different. Hashcat introduces what's called like masking, and I don't probably have the right format here, but if I was going to say brute force the hashes file, so for this one I'll just give it hash test, right, or hashes 2. I'll say brute force this because I'm not passing any word list, and I want you to output all the passwords you found in the md5.pot, which is the file extension that John the Ripper and Hashcat use to dump passwords in. You can do this to mask. So like this would say, okay, I'm going to brute force, and I'm only going to brute force up to 3 characters, and they're only going to be, I believe, alphanumeric. I think the lowercase a is just the whole entire alphabet, while uppercase A would be the capital alphabet. And there's many different types of masks. I believe you can do like word masking, where you're chunking a word list and you're masking 2 word lists next to each other. But what makes this so awesome is that instead of like, say, traditional brute forcing where you're just saying, all right, we're going to throw combinations on combinations on combinations of stuff until something sticks, you can say, okay, well, I know that our passwords that we're going to be looking for here are going to be no longer than 8 characters, because anything longer than that's going to take way too long to brute force. And you know, I think there's going to be maybe a number in the first or in the last digit or something. So you could do that to mask. But we'll see if this runs. I've been having some trouble with Hashcat today. So Hashcat will start up, and since I have an older computer, it doesn't do everything the most efficiently. And what it's going to do is it's just going to start brute forcing, and it's going to update you on the temperature of the CPU, because this can get pretty CPU intensive. You see here we have the abort trigger set to 90 degrees Celsius. So it's just going to run through and try to brute force. I'm not going to wait all that time for that to happen. Hashcat you can also pass word lists to. Let's see here. Yeah. So here I'm passing the top 10 million passwords to Hashcat, and this is how you would do the exact same thing as your John the Ripper. And this Hashcat also comes with Kali Linux. We'll do hashes too. And you see that's how fast it took, basically, to get through everything. And this Hashcat actually grabbed admin. That could be the word list I fed it, or that, yeah, it's probably just the word list I fed it. But we can see here, this is just Hashcat's output. And then we should be able to go into md5.pod. And we can see all the passwords that I've recovered using Hashcat. We all been following along? You guys been able to try this out? If you're just watching, I highly recommend you do some of these command lines. You actually get them down. Any questions? No? So something that I wanted to do, in that I don't think Chris and I have completely figured out yet. Chris, have you figured this out entirely yet? The PDF.
I have encrypted the password separately.
Okay. Do you want to drop all the encrypted passwords into Slack?
Everything's there earlier.
Okay, so we have a encrypted password list dropped onto our Slack, and you guys
PDFs are there too.
should crack it. What?
PDFs are there too. There's a slide. Slide should still be the same.
Let's see.
Was it that email?
Yeah, it says email dump that, dude.
Hayden, you should log into your.
Oh, is it locked?
Yeah. So you guys should try to.
like 10 minutes and get it.
Wait, you're forcing you to use a word list.
Didn't get it with word list.
What word list did you use? You didn't get any of them?
Not mine. I just
Oh, yeah. I'd be surprised. So, where'd you put that on there? Yeah, okay. So go ahead, grab that file. I don't know where it is on Slack. It's in general. And then pipe that through and see if you can crack these passwords. And then after that, pretty much good to go. So we have any questions, need help getting things running?
just I know.
It's all good.
Yeah, so you get a spring sale, kind of salty about my good.
You should turn your bias. Do you have a warranty?
I was like, dude, like maybe a few days off, like 30 day.
Where is it at?
But if you're interested.
It's in general, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I'm scrolled way up.
It's email export.zip. See, what we were originally trying to do was, and we ran into some problems because the version of the PDFs, but we were going to give everybody a PDF, and you would have, it was password protected PDF, and the goal is that you would extract the password hash from the PDF and crack that password hash using John the Ripper hash attack. Turns out there's a lot to that, and sadly, the newer, or it's a good thing too, the newer versions of PDF use a way stronger encryption on their passwords, so it's a lot harder to brute force and crack those. So otherwise, we can look into having something a little bit more in depth. Maybe I'll go more into hashcat and masking. And then just a question. Can we raise your hand if you're graduate students?
Are these MD5s?
Yeah. Okay. Alright, I have to have above 51% of the members undergrads, or else we don't get easily funded. So, yeah. Soon.
I should sue the university for discriminating against me for being a grad student.
Yeah.
Oh, the hatches have this dash on it.
Maybe you have to truncate.
I'm just gonna fix that and set it.
My Cali is up there. My Cali.
You want to break it?
Huh? Nah. He's got my Cali flash drive anyway. So. Next week I'm gonna bring a cable so that we can run the slides off the computer that's already up there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a HDMI, a DVI and bring one with me.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's working well. Now we got the old camera there. I think that works a lot better.
I saw
Yeah.
I saw him.
I would agree. Definitely not nearly as difficult of a thing to set up.
Yeah.
You got some serious stuff.
Yeah.
Some serious tryouts.
Did you read that?
Those are just the ones in the library.
Yeah.
they're good ones.
Yeah. Because I think I did, but you just never bought tickets. I think I told AJ about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. He's putting
I
together
usually
my
tell
demo.
you guys. It's actually one of you guys, but like, it's like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I know you can with Haskell. I hadn't really seen John Murphy before. It's crazy.
I wish I had a nicer. Once we get the server. Oh yeah, another cool update. I talked to Professor Franco today, and the university has ERC 516 officially allocated for us, and well, that's more than I've ever heard from them, aside from you're getting a lab space. So now the university is completely on board. We have a room, and now I'm just pestering Mr. Franco to get us in there.
Am I allowed in that room?
Yeah.
Right now?
No.
No, I'm not. So we don't have room.
But will.
They
Now
say
we
we
have that room allocated, the actual. At least we have a room number.
I'm tired of empty promises, AJ.
Yeah. They're promising so many empty promises. You see, they're promising empty promises.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I hope so.
You look tonight?
Huh?
You look tonight?
Who's going to tell me?
Oh, is she here? Oh.
Yeah, I got
That's what I'm doing. Just do it tomorrow.
Oh, was that Jamie's going to tell me? Yeah, I just need, okay.
What are these porn unknown.kex files? Kind of.
Oh, I left those in. Don't worry about that. That joke.
This Mardi Gras week long.
This whole fucking thing is about sex.
This Mardi Gras week long.
Oh, it's probably from.
I don't know. I would assume people are going to be burning for the week, though.
I'm just saying.
There's an active system in there. I saw that.
Was it the first? I don't know. That's my friend Alex. Listen to it. I don't like his beats, but he's cool. Alex.
What's his station?
Listen to it. He's cool. I met him at St. Who's the best?
You literally. What format?
What do you mean you never got the score in Algebra? So the eval, it's sometimes applying like a bunch of foundations. I don't know why. It's probably the hardware. Yeah. Sorry. John? Format essentially? They say. Yes.
These are the songs that these are all I kind of just sort of got a beat and sort of key, and then I just listen to it, pick like the top 50 tracks I like, and then I just started making it, and I kind of just went by, okay, I want this part, okay, because I don't know, like remember like at the gym, I'm just like, oh, you need like this quick song, like this remix, and I can pick those songs to like the high okay, I can usually do up to 2 or 3 of those episodes without any side songs. So for me, it was just like, okay, I want that particular sound in my toes. I thought it was pretty interesting. Do it. That's good. So the hardest part is like staying down after you start it, but like once you start it, it's so easy. It's just like making a track, but it's way easier. The only fucking problem I hate is when I'm in A with it, you like start at like all 75, you can choose next Monday or Tuesday, start at Sunday. It's so hard. It's difficult. Cut them out for a second. Right. Which part? I've registered for a file. I'm not going to go because I have to work out.
Oh, yeah, that's your run as a VM. Oh, run a VM. And have a collection. Like, for Oxmox, it's just going to be able to fully take advantage of all of our, yes, all of our, that way, we have 64 gigs of RAM, and we can spin up like, I know, like, we're the MRM dash RF, file slash star, so it's actually a lot easier to manage.
This is what I'm literally talking about.
Yeah, I'm in the desktop now, using it to be on my machine. Slash. Trying to figure out how to wait, do I do that to the desktop or the server? Do I do this? And then it's rocky.txt. I want to delete that whole oh, well, it wasn't doing that earlier. I did that first. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Permission denied. We're good. Everything's good. Quick permissions. Yeah, because like that specific script is taking advantage of your wireless card or whatever network you use. And that's what it's doing. So I can't say how many times I've had the same thing. An hour and a half later, we just show missing this.
So he was like, going to be in a lot of shit. We went to the house party shit. And we had this book.
Did you get it? We got it. Was it all you expected it?
After 30 minutes in, I was like, alright, well, I guess we need to finish this. Like, I'm not just going to get halfway through just to I don't even use it. Like, I just wanted me to build it. So I built it and there's a kid in the Dropbox folder to send to him so he can
wow.
I just got
we do John let's do dash format.
Oh, we do.
Dash raw.
So it was good. It's like $30.
Raw dash MP5.
No, I'll just show you the one I use. That's for one. So it's like $3. Yeah, but it's like all this deal. So like that shit was I signed up for that and it just canceled right away. So I saw mine.
But it was compiled and wherever your
They have a
Cryptographic.txt is or whatever
yeah. Well, we should like definitely uses this a lot of big resolutions. But it's so hard.
Basically, cache will inform and modify and return a string character.
So this is layout.
And then you pass the name of your hash file, like the hash keys you're trying to crack, or hash keys you're trying to crack. So you should be able to
Year one next year. No, not this one. This is the new one that just came out. This is Jordan Script. Dude, this is like such a good edit.
Yeah, see, these are all the directory. So you got to point it to that directory. You know, you don't have to be in that directory. Just point to it the same way you point to a security list. So where's your skill set? So you go to your and do a is Cipher at the top of your Okay, so what you're doing here is forward slash. So you have to yeah, capture called the group. That's forced to override. Yeah, we do. Do I need to yeah, so you're
This is gold credit that nobody else will have.
Yeah. So, why do you use the microphone to give all that password? Yeah, you should probably format your hash. I mean, because things like so you're gonna whatever you don't have to use Java to do it. So there's nothing in Java. Yes. Okay. There's that. Now we're talking about service. So I just saw that you yes. Troubleshoot that. Figure out that should be right where it is. I actually tore out a static connectors. So where's your email? Just by trying to
get a rig it, but I'm looking at that. So now I have 1 terabyte, 240 SSD.
So what you gotta do is get rid of that. See what I'm talking about? So that's like the general idea. Yeah. Oh, that's
I have the materials.
That's because
I still haven't gotten Wi-Fi drivers for work. I'm switching on my PC. It's always the Wi-Fi drivers. Always.
And of course it's the one driver that you can't get without Wi-Fi.
I have I transferred over. I have a GitHub that has the driver on it. I copied all that on the flash drive, got it over there, and then I tried to make it. It's like, sorry, makes not install. And I'm like,
I just tethered to my phone and did
like,
APT over that.
So I have to bring it to another room and get it get off the damn wall and put on the internet cord.
any of the if you're limiting yourself to 300 megabits per second on the Wi-Fi.
Oh no!
I mean, you pay for it.
Not like we're ever gonna.
That's why I think was pissed off. The passwords you set are not.
Yeah, it's like not.
This one is never ever.
I was running just Wi-Fi. I got
the ever
20 at one point on one test, but speedtest.net only gives me times like 9.
But so even if you have a good Wi-Fi card, you can't get like 500 megabytes.
That's not like accurate.
Easy router. That's what I have. I was like, I was on a spaceship.
You're gonna get the whole thing.
I mean, you do that straight without even having a router.
But anyway, I mean,
You're 4K with no scaling.
well, it doesn't scale
Okay,
with
stream 4K.
I
Yeah.
know. I hashed all this So that's what I did the MD5 function. Get rid of it. And I think that the password hashes that we have given everybody are a little too difficult to actually break the word list. So I just going on there. I'm gonna look at what they are again.
So like they have cards,
I'm gonna look at what they are. I'm not doing this anyway.
Yeah, I think
Oh, you changed your password. I was expecting 2 or.
Oh yeah, no, of course I changed my password.
Do you use that as like the main OS on here?
Huh? Yeah, this is the the only OS on here. This is the Actop. This is the only function for this guy is to
Makes sense.
Yeah, I can fucking.
Mine, since I literally haven't even installed it off the USB, it's still 2 or.
Ooh, okay, we can scale that down now.
Seems fine to me.
I think it's cat keys.
So do you have to like parse it? You have to like delete the rest of it.
No, some of these should. We should be able to get one password out of this.
that's really funny. Like the comments you were saying before the meeting.
This one,
But I think I read
it's
about
hard to
something
get.
like that last
This
night.
one's hard to get.
I don't
You
know.
might try running a name word list if we have a word list of names. Or dictionary attack. Dictionary attack too would work.
Also, if you have a word list with animals.
Yeah. I would check out those are just chicken, revolution, never ever, and
just spoil them all.
well, spoil them all. Yeah.
I mean, it's not, telling them what they are isn't going to help them.
That's true. That's true.
It's crap.
Unless they create their own word list.
I don't know why.
You're so cool, bro. Like, you're such a hater. Fucking hater. No, work. What is it? Are you?
Did you install Kali?
Are you
from my flash drive?
Finally! I had to go in and change these files settings. Oh, yes. Root. Oh my god,
Look at that.
It's TOR.
Nice. Nice.
Damn it, fuck. Yeah, they're all gone.
Do you not need my flash drive anymore?
Yes. I've got to give them back. You just copied every single file.
That's fun. They're all just OSs. I don't use any anymore. There's nothing sensitive on these.
How much were those?
They were like $8 pop or something. I don't know.
You get this on any
Because each one of these has a separate OS on it. That sounds like a nightmare to say.
It's literally a program. You can even install it on Windows. You download all the apps.
But like some of these are like, this is like a Windows 10 install disk. I don't know. I just figured this would be easier.
It's like, it's quite
Oh my god, my mouse is the only reason I didn't want
Like I know you can do it with Grub or whatever, but I was just like,
find a way around it. That's probably going to take hours and hours.
I think I just still haven't had that to work. I already got it. Can you usually update one ISO without doing the whole thing? Okay, cool. Because that's the thing I like about this is like I installed a new Kali version and not to care. Huh, pretty cool.
See you later.
But YouTube.
Hey, AJ, I've got clothes you should borrow. And not run back. I have clothes, so I didn't find it. And
I told Tiffany I thought.
Where'd you get that?